Hello, my name is Simon. Today we're going to look at organizing some effects in Reaper. This is something in Reaper that I think a lot of people are underestimating. When you think about organizing effects, I think a lot of people might think about Ableton, for example. And with instrument racks and effect racks in Ableton, you can pile a lot of effects on top of each other, add some macro knobs to them, and you can create your own sort of plugins, essentially. And there's nothing prohibiting you from doing that in Reaper as well. I will just show you some of the basics in this video, and then you can maybe explore some more ideas of your own later on. Alright, so now we are in the Reaper project. I just have one track here with an EQ on it and a compressor. There is no audio or anything, it's just this track. You can see that on the EQ I've got some parameters here that control the different bands of the EQ. Then I've also got a compressor here where I can control the input and the output. And now you may be thinking, why would you do this even? Because if I want to adjust the EQ, I can just open it up here. I can do everything here. Well, opening up the EQ is an extra step. One big thing for me is that I have my favorite frequencies that I am always using when I'm EQing. So right now, on the high mid band, for example, which is this band 3, on here I've got 2000 Hertz set. I've got 2000 Hertz specifically because that is where all of the definition lies in an instrument, generally, not always, but most of the time. So when I know that I want to make an instrument or a vocal more defined, I am usually somewhere around 2K. And I know, because I've set up these parameters, that high mid-band is 2000 Hertz. I don't have to open up the EQ or anything, I just know that this mid-band is what I want to adjust, and then I can just adjust it right here if I want to make something more defined. When you know the frequencies that you set up, and you know that those are the frequencies that you want to be using, you don't have to go into the EQ. You can just adjust everything right here. Same thing with the compressor. If you have set up your compressor, right now got the Toucan New Treasure here, which is a really nice free JS plugin for Reaper. Let's hypothetically say that I really like these settings and I want to keep them as they are. The only thing I want to adjust is the input and the output gain. I don't have to open up the compressor at all. I can just have the input and the output right here where I need them, and I don't have to mess around with opening the plugin. So now I will show you how you can set this up for yourself. So the first thing you're going to need is a plugin, obviously. So let's put in a RIA EQ. With your RIA EQ up, you choose the parameter that you want to have available in your track controls here on the mixer panel. So you might want the gain of the low band here. So I will just wiggle this around a little bit, and then I press the parameter menu here. And then we've got this little button here that is show in track controls is what it's called. You click this, and now you can see that on the mixer panel I've got this right here. And you can see when I turn this up and down, the EQ is adjusting accordingly. And you can add one of these track controls to any parameter that you want. You can have this entire track filled with parameters if you want to. And now that you know how to assign a track control, I will show you now how to do parameter modulations. And with parameter modulations, this is where it gets really powerful. Let's say, hypothetically, that we want to adjust the low band right here and the high band at once with just one knob. This is something that you can do. So I will go into the high band here, which is band 4. You have to make sure that this has been touched to make sure that it's selected. You can see which parameter has been last touched in this parameter here. Parameter menu. And then what you need to do is you need to click on parameter modulation / MIDI link. And this little menu will pop out. I know that this menu sort of looks kind of scary, but I promise it's not that difficult. You check this here, link from MIDI or effects parameter. And now where it says none, you can click that. And then you go into the plugin itself. You can see there that it says self. So I'm going to be modulating itself. And then I of course have to pick the gain low shelf, which is what I want to be adjusting simultaneously as the high band. So now when I turn this track control in the mixer view, you can see that both the low and the high band are adjusting simultaneously, like so. So this could be a really cool thing for you to put on like your mix bus, for example, if you want a plugin that just does this smiley curve effect, this is where it gets really powerful. And of course you can do this with any parameter that you want to. You sort of just have to let your creativity flow here. Alright, so the last thing I will show you for now are effects containers. And for this example we will use this track that I showed you in the beginning with the EQ and the compressor. So let's say that I want just one cohesive unit that consists of the EQ and the compressor, and I want those parameters to be accessible on the track. So how do I do that? Well, I go into the effects menu here where I have all of my effects. Then I highlight all of the effects, so both are chosen. I right click and then I can choose move effects to container. And when I click this, you can see that all of the track controls that I have assigned previously are now in one big group here. And then I've only got one unit up here. And right now this container plugin is just called container, but that's not really descriptive enough for us. We want to know what is inside of this container. And to do that, you can highlight the container and then you can press F2 if you want to. And when you press F2 the function key, you can then rename this effects instance, which in this case is the container. So we can call this EQ and comp, for example. And now once I've renamed this, you can see very clearly in the track here what this container is doing. When I put this in the container, Reaper automatically changed the name of the track controls for me so that it is much more clear what parameters are connected to which plugin. And if you want to change the name of the track controls, all you have to do is right click and then you can add an alias to them. So if you press this, you get this rename parameter menu and then you can press in whatever you want. Alright, so that was everything that I wanted to show you. It's really all just basic things that you may underestimate right now, but you have to think about, you know, in these examples that I showed you right here, it's just one or two plugins on a track. But that's not really how reality is, right? On a track, in a mix, you might have like 15 plugins, and it can be really hard sometimes to understand what each plugin is doing. And it's with these tools that I showed you now, like setting parameter modulations and changing the name of different plugins so that you understand more of what they're doing. It can be a really powerful tool to really make your mixes more efficient. You can work faster and everything just is, more faster, I guess. But this has been everything. If there's anything that you want to ask in the comments, go ahead. I might make a video on it if it's a good idea. Like and subscribe if you want to, and goodbye.